No, your dad can't come to guys' night. I don't want to be nice or put pants on. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
I don't even know if it sounds good or not. I should probably listen to it.
You remember that show? Are we recording?
Yeah, I don't know where to put stuff. This is great stuff. Mike, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. I am doing well. I am just chugging along right now. It's been a fun day. It's been work is work.
Work is work.
Family's family. It's
I need Uber to get better because I really don't want to get a real job. I'd rather do this. So if you all could tell your friends to hit like and subscribe and leave comments and tell us what you want to talk about.
We'll do it.
I really don't want to get a real job ever again. Anyway, talking about boundaries within the marriage last week, that we need to set them together and enforce them. Today, after we do our question, we're going to talk about boundaries to set for our in-laws or for our parents.
Yes.
That's an adventure. Oh, good grief, is that an adventure? But first, uncommon questions, not sponsored. Mike, go ahead and pick one. These are our random questions that you can ask your spouse. You can get them on Amazon. I think I put the link out there. What is it? Go for it.
The question is, what is something that you probably know more about than 99% of the world?
I know my answer, so you go first.
What do I know more about than 99? Well, me.
That's probably true.
Right. Well, no, that was just a simple answer throwing it out there. Something that I know about that 99% of the world doesn't. We can sit there and think about that for a while. Go ahead and throw your answer out so I can...
I'm pretty sure you heard the kids that time.
I didn't.
You all are going to tell me you didn't. I'm going to go back and listen to this. I have been told I need to stop throwing my kids under the bus because you guys can't hear them. They laughed really, really loud. So anyway,
They're having a good time.
Truck driving.
Ah, that's absolutely...
Like commercial truck driving and towing and all of that stuff. Because it may not be more than 99% of the world. But in the United States, we have a book. It's this thick. And we have to know the whole thing. And the rules of the road for driving a car are different for a truck driver in so many ways.
Oh, wow.
That, I mean, I could spend a whole lifetime just doing a show about the rules of truck driving. No, I'm not doing that show.
No.
Anyway, for me, I think it's truck driving. Because a lot of people all the time like, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? Or why do they have this many wheels? Or why do they have that many wheels? Or... like trucks are only allowed to, normal trucks are allowed to weigh up to 80,000 pounds. That's hard to stop an 80,000 pound anything.
Right.
Anyway, stuff like that.
Something that I know that 99% of the world doesn't. I have no idea. I know that I don't know. That's a rough question for me because, I mean, I sit there and obviously things that I may or may not know, I look up, and obviously there's a lot of people out there that are on social media that know what I need to know.
Yeah.
Would I throw something out there that I don't know? I know how to ride a unicycle.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if 99% of the people know how to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting.
This was a different question for me, but
yeah.
All right.
So
Let's go.
In-laws. As adults, should we be able to say no to our in-laws?
Without a doubt, yes.
Yeah, and our parents.
And our parents, especially.
So, parents, in-laws, we use the word toxic. That's a general term. Not all of them. We've talked about this for 3 weeks now. I don't think all in-laws are genuinely trying to be evil and split up a marriage. There are some that do. Like, there are some in-laws that think you stole my baby from me and you're not right for him or her and I'm going to do whatever it takes to split up the marriage. That's a toxic marriage.
Definitely.
I don't think the majority of us have in-laws that are that specific. I think we have just a misunderstanding, miscommunication, expectations.
Yeah.
So today's show, expectations within the marriage, like the schedule we talked about last week. Here's our kid's schedule. You want to be part of it?
Here it is.
Here it is. If it doesn't match with your schedule, tough. I'm sorry. That's for your kids. Like, do I really care if my kids go and do whatever with grandma? Probably not. But their mental health and their development as a kid is going to be better because we have the science now and the research. Like, I'm not saying that the way you did it back then was bad, but the way we can do it now with understanding mental development and the science and the people that have put together like loads of research to say, hey, kids do better with this. I took a parenting class last week that was how to have your kids pay attention without yelling at them. Because back then you did what you were told because you were told to do it or your butt hurt. That doesn't work.
No.
Anyway, parents and in-laws, they have different lifestyles than us. They have their own insecurities. A lot of times, like in my parents' age, they're coming up on retirement. Their emotions are all over the place. Or they're either super critical about life or they're super laid back. But whatever it is, they have their own lifestyle and their own emotions and their own things. And we need to be okay with not allowing them into our kids' lives or into our own lives if the health level is not appropriate. And that needs to be okay. Sometimes they don't have a filter. Sometimes they're super intrusive. A lot of times, you don't have everything in common.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoy NASCAR and bullets. So does my father-in-law.
But not at the same time. But
no, that's a whole different sport. But no, like, so I like to reload. Like, reload, like, make new bullets. So he likes NASCAR. So I'll, like, take a bucket of brass and I'll sit and, like, file out primer holes and watch NASCAR with him.
Yep.
Like, that's... But
invite me. I love both too.
But there's like, I'm trying to think of something he does that I don't like to do, and I just can't think of what. Camping, outdoors, cars, but like we genuinely have the same interests. But I'm not going to ladies' tea day.
No.
But here's this one, and I want your thought on this one, so you can go for this one.
Yeah.
Grin it and bear it is not the only way to handle in-laws.
Absolutely not. The grin and bear it part of it, I can see. I mean, there is a time and place for it. I think. I believe that. If you're supporting your spouse in something and you need to go be with your in-laws in the same vicinity, but as far as just grinning and bearing it and dealing with stuff, you should never, in all aspects, have to put up with negative attacks or anything that just puts you down, especially in front of your spouse.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I sit there and I think back and I think of different things and there's always, I've never been one to brown nose, I guess would be the best way to say it. This is me. If you don't like it, tough. Mm-hmm. And there's been times to where, my wife knows me better than anybody out there now, that if I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. And you're not going to make me do it. So when I'm over at my in-laws and there's an issue of, hey, maybe I should be acting a certain way. Okay. There's the boundaries are set up to where, yes, I may do that or I may not do this or that. But don't expect me to act a way that you want me to act. My in-laws may want me to act a certain way as a husband, a certain way as a father. My way to act as a husband and as a father really has no bearing on them whatsoever.
Sure.
It's not their decision. It's not their position to tell me what to do and what not to do. I love my in-laws, love them to death now, and I will take their advice. But as we get into the boundaries, some boundaries need to be bigger, stronger, while others can be more relaxed in the sense because they know, okay, I'm not going to do this. Other ones, they'll push. As a grandparent, I'm a grandparent. I sit there with my granddaughters and, yeah, I'm going to do what I want to do. And then my daughter comes in, no, you're not. And it's like, okay, you're the mother. And I've learned over time that, what did your mother say? They'll come to grandpa and be like, Papa, I want ice cream. Well, okay, let's have ice cream. It's the same aspect with the in-laws. I'm not going to allow, when I was younger and we had our kids would want to go do what they want to do with their in-laws. They didn't ask me as the parent. And I felt that was something that kind of maybe overstepped a little bit. They may have asked my wife, and my wife may not have talked to me about it. I said, oh, go ahead, knowing that my daughter knowing that I may not have agreed. But when it comes down to how my in-laws treat me, no, I do not have to grin and bear how I'm treated. I'm not saying my in-laws treated me horrible, by no means.
Sure. Yeah.
There are times where we don't disagree, and I don't have to take it. I do have to be respectful.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation. I need to be respectful, but I don't have to grin and bear it and just, let things go how they want to do it. If I'm in their home and I don't like the way that I'm being treated, it's my prerogative to get up and leave. I do not have to do it. So, and that's something that you need to discuss with your spouse. Privately, like we mentioned last couple of weeks, that's something we need to talk to our spouses. Hey, this is how I felt. Mm-hmm. I felt my mother-in-law or my father-in-law, when they said X, Y, or Z, that hurt me. It felt like they were attacking me. Knowing your spouse knows your parents better than I do, what do you think? And will they defend their parents? Maybe a little bit, but you have to let them have that ability to understand where you're coming from. And maybe they know their parents better and can explain it in a different way that I would understand what they were saying. So, I mean, that's something that we've talked on, being able to talk to our spouse in private. But as far as grinning and bearing it, I do not think you have to grin and bear everything. Absolutely not.
Sure, and I'm with you. Grin it and bear it is not a way to go through life, for anything. I mean, there are times where, you just need to stand there and shut up and deal with it. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but funerals, they're not always a great experience. You just need to be there, right? Birthday parties of your kids' friends, uncles, mothers, sister-in-law. I don't know this person. I'm here because my kid asked me to, and it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
Grin it and bear it. Deal with it. But you touched on this. I want to point it out. Approach your spouse first when deciding what boundaries you need to set with your in-laws. They hopefully know their parents better than you do.
Yes.
And so together you can seek out the things that make the relationship difficult, whatever those specific things are, whether it's they don't ever want to participate. That's a whole nother thing. Like, how do you handle in-laws locally? Like, if they're local, if they live far away, that's a whole different thing. Cause now you're talking about budgets and finances and it costs money to travel kind of thing. But if you have local in-laws that don't want to participate in the life of the family, how do you deal with that? That's a whole, I don't know how you deal with that. Other than, it's horrible to say this because as a pastor, I don't like this term, but they've done their time.
Right.
They raised their kids. Their kids have gone off to have their own life. And it's time to retire. Like, I don't want necessarily to hang out with grandkids all day, every day, all the time. I'm not,
True.
That's an extreme, but, or one-sided, if we're being totally honest, sometimes grandparents are partial to the first grandbaby. It happens.
It happens.
That's not. Don't hold that against them. Like it's just the way it is. But how do you deal with favoritism? You talk about it. Like
Oh, absolutely.
the whole. You can take our entire first season and apply that to your in-laws. Hey, can we talk about this? They may not be open to it, and it'd probably be awkward having conversations with your mother-in-law about why she doesn't want to hang out with your kids. But I don't have this problem, and I hate saying that because, like, it's like, how can I talk about this? But just the stories we hear. Like, we read these, we read the comments, we read the messages that we
Yes.
get that, hey, my in-laws keep taking my kids during nap time. Well, you're the parent. Tell them to stop, or they don't get to see the kid. Like, you are allowed to make that decision.
Yes.
But as a couple, and I'd even say this in divorced, separated, co-parenting relationships, because your ex-in-laws are still part of your family, whether you want them to be or not.
Right.
Those boundaries need to be decided together. Assuming, and I'm hoping, that you're co-parenting cordially, because that is unfortunately a reality that separated parents don't parent together. But that's a whole nother show.
Right.
It's a whole nother season all by itself. Anyway, whoever, parents, couples, approach your spouse first because they would know how to help deal with their parents. Seek out the triggers or the things that are causing the tension, whether it's constantly telling you how to live your life or constantly, if, my mom was constantly telling me that Kim's not good for me, and she doesn't. My mom is wonderful. Love you, Mom. Telling me that Kim's no good for me. She stole me from her, and you should divorce her and go find somebody better, or constantly to, hey, this girl down the street's single, or hey, this girl just got divorced, you should go hook up with her. Hook up is a different term today than it was then. You should go on a date with her.
Right.
Those kind of things, like, those are triggers. Those are the kind of things we're talking about. We need to be able to sit down and say, hey, like you said, your mom said this about me and our relationship, and that hurts. She needs to stop because it's not okay. And then set those boundaries, and then have the group discussion. And that's probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is at some point you need to have the confrontation, like have the confront them and have the discussion. Yeah. Hopefully it's cordial. From the stories I've heard in this experience, and I've had a couple of conversations like this with my in-laws, like, hey, I wasn't a fan of that. Can we do it differently? And in my case, it's worked out well. Like, yeah, let's move forward doing this. Like, both my parents and my in-laws, the kids' schedule, they stick to it. Like, hey, when is nap time over? Can we come over at 4 and do something with the kids? Yes.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it'll be like, hey, the kids are sleeping. You can come over whenever.
I sit there and I look at that, and that has a lot to do with respect as well. Mm-hmm. In-laws understand, like you had mentioned before, they've been there, they've done that. They have the experience, and they want to pass on that experience, but they need to know how to pass on that experience. That experience that they have can be taken as you trying to invade my marriage.
Yeah.
And that can be, like how you work it out, your parents with you, if you ask, you've opened the door. Sometimes the door's kicked down.
Yeah.
And here's the advice, whether you like it or not. And that's where you need to, where's your boundaries? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need bigger boundaries. Sometimes we need to be able to enforce the boundaries by saying, okay, you know what? We've talked about this. I think I'm gonna step away. I'm gonna go ahead and go home, and allow them to think about it.
Yeah.
What did I do? And I've done that with my parents. My father wanted to talk to me about something that I've talked to him about before. Hey, Dad, love you. Talk to you later. Take off. As long as there's a respect mm-hmm. and an acknowledgement that I'm the parent and they're the grandparent, and that there is a way to, I'm not going to say co-parent because they're not the parents, but they can offer information,
Yeah.
in a way that is respectful of me.
Mm-hmm.
And is like you had said, when we get together with our spouses and we want to set up those boundaries for both sets of parents, you have to kind of look at each set of parents individually because both sets of boundaries won't fit both sides of the fence. There are that will.
Sure.
Nap time. This is nap time. This is lunchtime. Things like that. But as far as you had mentioned, maybe there's a family, the in-laws don't spend time with their grandchildren. Maybe there's a set of in-laws that spend too much time with their grandchildren. And the boundaries need to be specific to the situation. And as long as you're in agreement with your spouse and how it's going to be applied and how it's enforced, in my opinion, the best thing to do is to talk to your in-laws, talk to your parents, saying, hey, you know what, as the parents of our children, as husband and wife, this is what we would prefer. And you're more than welcome to do what you want to do, but just understand that in case you step over those boundaries, the odds are we'll probably take off. Doesn't mean that we don't love you. We just feel that we're adults. We need to make our own mistakes in life to be able to learn and grow. And if we're handed everything, we're not going to know that pain sometimes that helps that growth, bloom forward. So when we sit there and we look at the boundaries, those aren't necessarily just to keep them away. When we hear boundaries, it's like, oh, you got to stop. It's actually to help growth and help us mature as well as young adults early on in our marriage.
Sure. That's hit on all of the points in my head. Don't beat around it. Speak the truth. Be gracious, but say your piece. Speak how you feel. But do that with if it's your in-laws, like do that with your spouse. Like this is a group effort. But set boundaries. And like examples, we're talking about the family schedule, right? Countless events that we've either not gone or left early because my kids will take a nap. They're not now, but then will take a nap between 12 and 3. Like that's not negotiable because if they don't take a nap from 12 to 3, 1 to 7 is horrible.
Right.
But schedule, right? We eat at the same time. Like those kind of things. Like obviously there are really important things and you make compromises, but by and large, this is the schedule. And we have either gone early or gone late, left early, or not gone to family functions and other events because we stick to a schedule. How they're treating our spouse, either way, if, my mom has never done this, but if my mom was constantly telling me Kim wasn't the right one, that's not okay. Like, hey, you need to stop. I chose her. You didn't. Get over it. Unsolicited advice. Telling you how to live your marriage. One of the coolest things that I think both my in-laws and my parents did was let us screw it up. Now, they helped us get back out of the hole after we were done. Like, hey, you messed this up. You screwed it up big time. But going better. Like, I think the foundation that Kim and I have now is fantastic because all 4 of our parents let us screw it up to begin with.
Yeah.
Without, within reason. Like, we didn't, end up divorced or doing something wrong. But the biggest 2 things that I would say before we wrap this up are enforce the rules.
Yeah.
Whatever the boundaries are, enforce them and be okay with saying no. Hey, we can't come to that. Or I'd love, honor, negotiate. Could we do it later? Could we do it earlier? Or, hey, if it's a schedule thing. But specifically, like, quit spousal abuse. Quit beating up my spouse, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think that with spouses or with our in-laws, I've learned that sometimes I'm not calling them kids, but they'll act like kids in the sense that they're going to test the boundaries. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that it's going to happen. And you just have to be like you were talking about, enforce them. They're gonna probe for weaknesses.
Yeah.
And okay, I got away with it this time. Now next time. Well, wait a minute, I got away with it last time. Just like our kids do.
Absolutely.
So definitely need to enforce.
For some of us, though, we're 15. They're 15 or 20 years into this, and their spouse or their in-laws are still, like, the boundaries are light years behind them.
Right. Yeah.
We're done testing the waters. The waters have been taken over in their mind, and you're going to do it my way.
Yeah.
Put your foot down.
Yeah, definitely.
That movie.
There's never...
The foot has been dropped.
Right. But it's never too late to put up the boundaries.
Yeah, never. Because growth, like at the end of the day, growth is the next step. Yeah. Always. There's always growth. And if it's never too late to remove a toxic person from your life. Nope. Or in our in-laws case, we can't ever get rid of them, but we can establish boundaries to say, if you want to participate in, we are trying to be better as a family. Your attitude or your opinion of my spouse or your interaction with our family is not healthy. We're choosing to leave you out of it unless you make a change.
Right.
That's fair. That's fine. That's okay. Hopefully they get it, and hopefully they ask questions. How can I be better and be part of it? Or there's going to be a lot of resentment and a lot of hurt, and they're just not going to want to be part of the family. That's a whole different conversation.
Definitely.
All right. I don't know what next week's episode is, because we might do week 4 or we might do something else. I really don't know. Again, we are not mental health professionals.
Nope.
Psychology Today is a good place to find a local one for you. That's where I found mine.
Nice.
But if you need help, marriage counseling, in-law counseling, any kind of counseling, go find one in your area. It is okay, guys and gals, to get help. Mental health is an important thing. Good stuff. Follow us. My Wife Still Likes Me. MyWifeStillLikesMe.com. Like, subscribe, do all the things and the buttons and stuff. You can hit the bell, too, if you want. It works. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to talk about. In-laws. Boundaries. And enforce them.
Yep.
See ya.